Hiya, folks. It is great to be back, and I know that you think it's great that I'm back. And so it's all great. And here we are, we're back, even if it is for just a couple of days. I intended to be off today and tomorrow, but the staff begged me to come back. Broadcast partners begged me to come back. Who else, taking a much-needed 2-week break, would be begged to come back when not much is going on? Me. And so here I am, after having been harassed and begged to come back. Well, the traditional Christmas break, not a whole lot going on out there. And normally this would be a time where everybody would say, go enjoy the full 2 weeks. But I was begged, I was pressured. It started on Tuesday night. You know, I left here and I said, get guest hosts for both weeks. And on Tuesday night, I get an email. Now, you're going to be back tomorrow, right? No! Who told you I'm coming back tomorrow? Well, it's right here on the schedule. You got guest hosts for those 3 days? Well, yeah. Well, then. And so Wednesday, okay, you're going to be back Thursday, right? I mean, well, no. I plan to stay off the whole week. No, but you have guest hosts? Yeah. Okay, then. The original plan holds. And so the harassment continued, and finally, here I am. And it's great to be here. Telephone number, if you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushbaugh@eibnet.us. I'll tell you what I thought about doing, and I mentioned this to Mr. Snerdley. Of course, I'm joking about not much going on. The sad thing about all this is, it's not really sad. It's that so much of this stuff that's being reported, I know otherwise. Or I have heard enough to believe otherwise. And it's a bit of a challenge because I don't really know some of the players involved here very well. For example, Steve Bannon. I've mentioned this a couple times. I never heard of Steve. Folks, I'm not part of the political world. I'm really not. I know people don't believe this. But I don't traffic in it. You know, I don't talk to people in politics except when they want to be interviewed here or in my newsletter. It's the only time I talk to them. I'm a non-entity in the fundraising world. And believe me, the fundraising world is politics. And I don't like it. I don't like being asked for money, and I could never be a fundraiser. I could never call friends and people you want to donate to whatever cause, because you always have to pay it back, and you always end up being obligated. But there's something about asking people for money. I'm constitutionally incapable of it anyway. I don't care what the purpose, what the cause. I can't do it. I'm so old school. I have to earn it. So as such, I never knew Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon, where he is because somebody gave him the money to run Breitbart, the Mercer family. And I never heard of them. I never heard of any of these people until after the Trump campaign began. Now, some would say you're a fool to admit this because your audience thinks you're wired. Your audience thinks you're in. No, I'm wired with you people. I am wired with what this country is, has been, and should be. But I'm purposely not connected to any of that. So I only the first time I met Steve Bannon was with Trump. And it was at Mar-a-Lago back in February, almost a year ago now. And he didn't say 2 words. It was Trump and Reince Priebus and me walking around Mar-a-Lago talking about things. It was about a month. I told you about this, a month after Trump had been inaugurated. I asked him, what's the biggest surprise? He said that there's still so much hatred. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I thought after it died down. I thought once I'm inaugurated and these people come to grips with the fact that I'm actually here, that there'd be some unity. And I looked at him, I was stunned. I said, that's never going to happen. I mean, these people are never, ever going to like you. And then Bannon piped up, good, you hear that, you hear that, hear that? And that was it. And then I saw Bannon again in March, when we were invited to the White House for dinner. It was a Thursday night. It was March 23rd. And that date, I remember it because, well, who doesn't remember when they go to the White House? But it was also the date that the final push for repealing Obamacare didn't work. And during that dinner, Bannon and Priebus are walking in, reporting various stages of what's going on the Hill. We're having dinners. Vice President Pence and his wife Karen Catherine and me and President Trump. And during dinner, they're walking in and explaining, updates with the liaison effort up on Capitol Hill. And that's it. And that's the extent of my knowledge of any of these people. I've not met the Mercers. So all these people are in the news. Now, I've had people tell me about them. I've had people who do know them talk to me about them. But then if I repeat that, that's gossip. Which I don't get into. I know Michael Wolff. I saw Michael Wolff, the author of this book, at the Ailes Memorial. Toward the end of his life, Roger had really come to like Michael Wolff and trust him and was talking to him religiously. Yes, it's true. And Michael Wolff at the time was working with Ailes on what was to be a forthcoming book, almost my memory's somewhat sketchy. I don't know if it's a biography or mini biography or what have you, but Wolff was there. And he even came to me, I guess I owe you a bit of an apology. I said, why? Well, apparently he had reported some things about me in the past that turned out not to be true. And I said, that's, get in line. That's what journalists do, is get it wrong, where I'm concerned. But it was a pleasant conversation and so forth. So I know all these people, but on the fringe, on the periphery. And I see all this stuff happen, and I'm trying to put it all together like you are. Now here's on the Wolff book that now the president's lawyer has sent a cease and desist letter to. That's the best promotion a book could get. You have your lawyer send the publisher a threatening letter. You better not publish that. All that does is make everybody, whoa, what is in this sucker? They want to go out and read it before it's published. They get copies of it however they can. So that's the best promotion the book can have. There's also a cease and desist notice to Bannon from President Trump, a lawyer, violating a non-disclosure. This Bannon is all over the place. I mean, go back to his 60 Minutes interview, remember, where he was praising Trump to the hilt, and he was saying that the Russian investigation was bogus and that there was nothing to it. And now in this book, he's quoted as saying that Trump and Trump Jr. were behaving in treason, committing treason by dealing with the Russians. I never understood, I didn't understand half of the president's staffing. I never understood how he knew these people and ended up choosing them. And, of course, the answer is the fundraising. The Mercers gave Trump $5 million. The Mercers wanted Bannon inside Trump. Trump's, okay, fine, make him strategist. I don't know if Trump ever even met Bannon before this campaign began. Maybe, I don't know. But there was just so much of that's the stuff that Trump has done in office that he's put his fingerprints on. That's bang up. That's great guns. More of that. Keep it coming. But some of this other stuff, I've just chalked it up to the fact, okay, I'm not in a loop on this side of things. Purposely, I have not put myself there. It's not that I'm being excluded. It's that I'm excluding myself. I do not want to be in the fundraiser world. I don't even, by accident, I don't want to end up there. And that, sadly, that's all politics is. Fundraising, bundling, donating, and this kind of thing. So I have to laugh when I'm called the titular head of the Republican Party. I've never raised a dime for anybody other than, I'm not in a direct sense. So anyway, I was just so sturdily, what do you want me to talk about? What do you want to hear my opinion on? I was going to ask you people, call, what do you want to hear my opinion on? Because there's so much stuff out there. Trump and that tweet and the nuclear button on the desk. Can you have a better illustration of how people still don't get Donald Trump? Who still, and it's from the entire inside the Beltway establishment. This thing with Trump, I've put some things together during the break. I'm constantly working on this, trying to explain the establishment, the elites and their opposition to Trump. And what really caused my latest foray into trying to understand this is that Trump is doing pretty much everything these people say they believe in, and yet they still hate his guts. So what explains that? This guy's done more for conservatism in terms of policy implementation and action than any of them ever dreamed possible. To most of these intellectual eggheads, conservatism, sadly, has become an academic exercise. They sit around and talk about it all the time. They sit around and theorize about it all the time while asking their donors to give them more money so they can keep writing and thinking, or publishing their magazines that couldn't make it in the free market. So they go out, they sit around and they do all that. Everything they've claimed over the years to want is happening, or pretty much. And they're abandoning their own policy beliefs that they have been wedded to for years simply because Trump adopts them. What explains this? Class. And by that I mean social class, not behavior. But behavior is a part of it. Taste. I think these are the people growing up who've always told us that we must be properly behaved and mannered and all of this. And yet they're the first to want to show up on Bill Maher's show. They're the first to want to show up on every liberal talk show where nothing but drudge and garbage, dredge, whatever, schlock is discussed, while telling us we must have the proper temperament and the proper decorum and so forth. And so that's what outrages them about Trump. It's such poor taste. Look at the way he speaks. Look at the way he looks. He's McDonald's in bed. It's a white. It's just silly, inconsequential things. But it all adds up to the fact they think they are superior human beings, and they simply cannot bring themselves to lower themselves to the barbaric behavioral level of Donald Trump, even though everything they have claimed, or much of everything they've claimed to be devoted to policy-wise, is being implemented or is closer to being implemented than they ever dreamed would be possible. So the tweet, this little pot-bellied dictator bragging that he's got a nuke button on the desk while half of his country's starving to death. Well, Trump says, you know what? I got a bigger button than you. I got a button, and it's bigger than yours, and it works. And they act like the greatest insult to human dignity and the presidential regime has ever happened. Now, why is everybody so, another thing they're mad about? They're mad that there hasn't been a similar eruption. I mean, the left did, of course. But there hasn't been a nationwide negative reaction to Trump's tweet. And they're frustrated at that, mad at that. Why aren't people more outraged by this? This is unpresidential. This is unseemly. This is dangerous. Why aren't people? These people hang around on Twitter. They see what the sewer it is and what it's become. And Trump and his little tweet is mild compared to the drivel that populates Twitter each and every day. What Trump said probably wouldn't cause a ripple in your average Twitter sewer. But no, he's the president, shouldn't speak this way. I explained this once before. I got the soundbite. We went back to the Groove Yard of Forgotten Soundbites, and I've got it. And I explained to people Trump's brilliance. He knows who he's dealing with and how to reach them. And if you're dealing with lunatics, and if you're dealing with the insane, throw it back at them. Throw a little unpredictability and lunatism back at them, and it discombobulates them, and in fact is. Kim Jong-un is confused. Kim Jong-un doesn't know how to deal with Trump. He's actually calling Washington liberals asking for help in translating, understanding Trump. Not recently, but he did. And now I understand that they've reopened a phone line connection, a hotline between North Korea and South Korea after Trump's tweet. The stock market's 25,000 plus. More and more companies are offering bonuses and hiring more and more people after the Trump tax bill was signed into law. The economy is set to boom in 2018. And what are the Democrats getting ready to do? Run on Trump hatred and impeachment. The Mueller investigation, the dossier investigation falling apart, the collusion of it was all about Carter Page. Everything about this clue was about Carter Page. Then that fell apart, so now they had to go get this drunken Papadopoulos guy with a comedy made to some Australian, and now that is the primary reason that they want to look into collusion with Robbie. Everything they're doing is coming off the rails. Even now, they do run the rails, and they can write themselves. I'm talking about Mueller and his people, but I mean, it's clear that the Steele dossier and everything about it has been phony, baloney, plastic banana, good time rock and roller from the beginning. It's falling apart. The collusion's fallen apart. New York Times over the weekend had to reset it and now focus on this Papadopoulos guy. Meanwhile, a FISA warrant was probably obtained to spy on the Trump campaign on the basis of a phony opposition research document the Hillary Clinton campaign paid for. Oh, and the Clinton... Did you notice they didn't say Bill and Hillary's house? They said Hillary's house caught fire in Chappaqua. I didn't hear any more about it. Was there much damage? Did you know? Oh, the guest. I wonder if Hillary had the, what's the nickname? Energizer Bunny maybe tied to the bed in there. The guest bedroom at Chappaqua is what burned, and ho. Started by a short circuit, right, in Hillary's brain. Probably walked in and saw the Energizer Bunny there in the guest bedroom. So, whoa! Okay, so we are supposed to believe, according to Michael Wolff's book, that Donald Trump did not want to win, that Donald Trump did not expect to win, that Donald Trump thought he would lose, and that was happiness. He wanted to lose. He wanted to become the most famous guy in the world, but he didn't want to win. Melania didn't want to win. Melania was so upset when they won an election night. She was crying. Trump had promised his wife that he would not win. None of them thought they were going to win. This was nothing more than a giant PR promotion. We learned that Trump suffers from dementia, that he ran a listless campaign. If anything, it wasn't listless. I've taken a break here. I just saw the clock. Don't go away, folks. And we're back. It's 2018. Rush Limbaugh, the Excellence in Broadcasting Network, and we are into our 30th year of broadcast. Here we are, day 4, 2018. Orrin Hatch has announced that he's not running again. Mitt Romney supposedly is. Steve Bannon is calling the president's son treasonous. You know what? I'll tell you what, I'm going to tell you everything that I heard all about Bannon's time in the White House. It's some of it's real, some of it you might call gossip. The thing that I think everybody believes and that everybody knows is that most of the leaking that was coming out of the Trump White House was Steve Bannon. Over half of it. And that's what Don Jr. and Jared, well, Don Jr.'s comments primarily, that's what they're referring to. And I have that on almost unassailable authority. Back in a second.